Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles. You are listening to Lyles Movie Files. I'm doing a special episode tonight because I wanted to talk about season 5, what we've seen so far of This Is Us. This Is Us is one of my favorite shows on TV right now. Love the cast. Don't think it has a weak link. The stories are always heart wrenching and just tug at every bit of your emotions. This season, the writers decided to focus more on current events, which means there is a lot of discussion about Black Lives Matter and the pandemic that has just shook up the entire world in 2020. I think so far in the series, we've always kind of assumed that they were in a present day sort of state, but this season kind of confirmed that the present storyline is where we are. Now, it's kind of interesting because some things don't quite line up with matching up with what's going on in 2020, but we'll let that slide. So I wanted to break this one down. We had This is a weird thing. My dad and I used to watch Lost when it came on every week, and one of our great frustrations with the show was when it would come on for like 2 episodes. We'd get 2 new episodes, and then we'd have to wait a month and a half before we got another new episode. Then they go to a string of reruns. It was a pain. This season started on October 27th, and it was weird because we got a we got a doubleheader, so we got 2 hour season premiere, and then we had to wait a week because of the election, and then we get 2 more episodes, and this episode Tuesdays wrapped up and said coming back in January. This is us, and it's like, well, dude, why did y'all start the season if we're only really gonna get 3 episodes over 4 weeks? So it was weird. Like I said, not a huge fan. I would have been fine waiting until January where we can just get a long string of episodes. I think everybody understands we're in a pandemic. Shooting has been rough. But going the rest of November, so that means no Thanksgiving, no Christmas episode. And, those have kind of been staples of the show. Not having those special episodes are weird. And it'd have been interesting watching the show tackle something that's a reality for all of us. How would the Pearsons spend the Thanksgiving in quarantine? What would Christmas look like? I think in a lot of ways, This Is Us embodies the best parts of family. And it would have been really fun to see how they handle that in this pandemic era. But we're not going to get that. Maybe we'll see a New Year's Eve party. Well, who knows? I wanted to kind of do this recap looking at each character as opposed to all the big storylines at once. So I'm going to just tackle them character at a time. Starting with my least favorite storyline slash character arc to my favorite. So let's go. I'm going to start off with Rebecca, not because she doesn't have anything interesting going on, but because her storyline didn't really develop further than what we already knew. She's slowly losing her memory, and the first episode or first 2 episodes looked at her, increasing memory loss, and we saw that birthday party of the big three where she wanders off and gets totally lost. Now, this was back when this was kind of teased earlier with Randall and Kevin and hey, what's going on? And it was just a fake out. Everything's fine. She remembered everything, and she's here for Thanksgiving. This time, we got to see what happened. Now, the tricky part was they tried to retrofit this scene as if it was happening right now during the pandemic. So when she's in the restaurant, nobody's wearing masks, and she's in a restaurant. That was kind of weird. Maybe Rebecca's in the Midwest. So anyhow, it was this thing of, okay, we're incorporating that into this flashback. And besides that, everything kind of checked out. Although the police officers also didn't wear masks when they brought her back over. Nobody's wearing masks. But that's just kind of something you have to deal with when you're fitting something into another scene. And if that segment was part of quarantine life, then you had to incorporate that as well. So yeah, that was basically all of present day Rebecca's storylines. She really didn't have anything on her own going on in the flashbacks. So Rebecca was kind of a supporting character for the most part and sort of just there. No knock on Rebecca. She just didn't have anything interesting. I want to move on to my next one because this one, I don't know. I think Kate is a good character. I like her kind of more in theory than basically any storyline subplot that she actually has. So, for whatever reason, her and Toby were having these marital issues. They were having these really significant communication problems last season when their son, when they realized that he was blind and couldn't see him. And then Toby had this impulsive thing of, well, I understand the value of siblings, so let's adopt. And it seemed like a very Toby thing to do. But it also was kind of weird because they just, they had these marital issues. I don't really know if they worked them out sufficiently in the sense of, hey, we're going to have a kid that can't see. What does that do to affect and change our life? And I don't feel like the writers really explored that well enough before, hey, let's just go into having another kid for him. That seems a little odd, just in the sense of that storyline has enough ground to tackle with both of them adjusting to this new life, just as parents. Also with his eyesight issues, trying to be PC and not just call him blind the whole time. But I mean, it's an issue, and it's something that they have to address and learn how to navigate. And I feel like just immediately putting little Jack onto the shelf, and he's with a babysitter, but who is this babysitter that's watching him all the time? Because we don't even introduce that character. And that babysitter should have probably been a storyline. Like, hey, who is this person that we have watching our son? Are they qualified to watch our son? I don't know. I feel like with Kate, they have so many tragic storylines that trying to work up some drama with this new mother who is going to deliver their baby and this triggers something in her past seems like a problem. Now let's go ahead and talk about that big secret from her past. So while she's hanging out with this new mom who's going to give Toby and Kate her baby, she reveals that she thought about having an abortion. And the show writers, I feel like, are always skewing to one perspective. Now, this debate is whatever, right? Like, you have a side, you don't have a side, and you're strongly opposed to the other side's perspective. And I feel like a show like This Is Us always toes the line with the more liberal perspective, in the side of, hey, that's what you want to do, you're all for it, go for it. No shame in this game. And I feel like sometimes we need a character, maybe like cousin or Uncle Nicky, who would stir things up with that other perspective where it's like, ooh, everybody's uncomfortable. And anyhow, so she said, I thought about getting an abortion, but I decided not to. And then Kate's mood immediately shifts, right? And sometimes with the plots and the way they write things, I know exactly where they're going. But after a conversation with Kevin, Kate is really sad. And then she tells Toby that back with that loser boyfriend of hers, who was kind of mentally abusive and trying to take her away from the family, she got pregnant. She got an abortion. And this is season 5 of This Is Us. And I feel like this is not the only storyline that's kind of coming out of nowhere on a soap opera kind of twist. I feel like the way that Kate operates, we would have known about this abortion. Because when she was having her issues with Jack, when she was like, oh my gosh, I'm not feeling good, I think I may lose a baby, when, hey, your son is going to be visually impaired all the rest of his life. I feel like Kate is the kind of person who carries her guilt with her. And she's not shy about talking about her feelings about how it was her fault that her father, Jack, died trying to get the dog. And just her issues with her size and her self-esteem, her singing. Like, she's never been shy about talking about her issues. Now, Sure, maybe that's something she never wanted to talk about with anybody, but I kind of feel like Kate would have interpreted her issues during the pregnancy as some sort of punishment for getting an abortion when she was 18 and not being able to take care of the baby. So that just kind of feels like one of these, hey, let's give Kate something else tragic. I hated that boyfriend storyline because they always make Kate off like such a loser. And some of that is because I don't know if it's some inherent thing about, hey, she's the bigger person, so she can't ever really be happy long term. But I feel like this was a time to just let Kate, be happy. She has a kid. They wanted a family. She's got one. Throwing in this newfound guilt about having an abortion when she was 18. The big three now we know are 40. So this was a long, long time ago. And I don't know, it's just weird that it just so randomly came up right at this point, and we're supposed to. I don't know. Kate is just not the person who would never have talked about that to anybody, especially Toby, who's always been super. He's Toby has been that guy who's been super supportive. He's never shied away from backing her with anything, and he didn't know her when she got this abortion. So I don't know. It just seems so odd that this would never have come up, especially when she was in the midst of struggling through this pregnancy. Yeah, wasn't a fan of this twist. I'm not the biggest fan of the let's immediately adopt a new kid and introduce that as some new drama that they've got to face. And I really don't know what they're going to do to resolve this Kate got an abortion when she was a teenager storyline anyway. Because it's just more trauma, grief that the rest of them really don't deal with. And it's just making Kate sad and just a character who always results in some crappy, just terrible storyline in the sense of she's never going to make you feel good when you watch her on screen. It's just like, oh gosh, how is Kate going to bum us out this time? So yeah, let's move on now because I'm getting bummed out thinking about Kate and her poor storyline. All right, next up is Jack, my man, my favorite, one of my favorite characters on the show. Jack's role in these 4 episodes is kind of interesting. He is, as always, the ideal, trying so hard to be the perfect father to his kids and navigating them through everything. He didn't have a whole lot going on. The first 2 episodes saw him getting nervous, getting really excited about the Big Three's arrival, and I think the fallout from that. Hey, I'm never going to grow a beard. I'm never going to have facial hair. Of course, we see that later as being a thing with him. Yeah, Jack's storylines. I always feel like the writers do Jack well. Like they handle him pretty well. Maybe that's just because Jack's dead and there's no future to continue writing for him. But I thought Jack always comes off well, and the end of this 4th episode was one of his great moments, one of the great additions to the ongoing Jack highlight reel. He's trying to get Rebecca to stop babying Kevin because he's just tired of how soft she's making him. And I think this is probably a very real argument you'd see couples having. Hey, you're going too easy on this guy. He's going to be a chump and quit at the first sign of any hint of adversity. And I think we've seen that over the years with Kevin. Like he's still a work in progress. But this episode showed how a little bit of tough love actually can help him. I'm going to talk more about this with Kevin's storyline, but I just like how Jack is always geared toward ensuring that his children have a better life than he did, and have a better relationship with their father than he did. I think there's one, like always, thing that kind of gets me is how different you'd think these kids' lives would be if Jack were still alive. And it's just all those possibilities. They did that really cool episode where we saw what life would be like if Jack were still around. It was like everybody's so much better. But yeah, I just, that's always the thing. Like, oh man, he's never going to get to see this. He's never going to see Randall become a city councilman. He's not going to see Kevin become this cool actor. He's not going to see a grandson from Kate. It's just rips at you. But Jack always, like I said, comes off very well. Good arc. And as usual, acting is always spectacular from him. Not a lot to say with Jack either, because I think the two sibling boys really kind of dominate in terms of the meaty storylines that we've seen so far this season. So now let's go into the first one. Okay, Randall definitely was going to be a focal point of the season. Before shooting of this for this season's began, everybody started thinking, "Hey, Black Lives Matter! Whoa, what an interesting concept! Whoa, here's some things that we should do in every walk of everything." Right? We've seen this, not a stranger. I mean, it's been going on for a while, and some hey, we support Black Lives Matter. Some companies have kind of shied away, just in terms of like the what's next. Others have been, no, we're serious about this. We're going to do what we said, and we're going to show you how much we want to make this change to what we're doing, to our business model, to our shows, to our representation, etc. So the Black Lives Matter story comes into fruition with This Is Us, with the first episode. And the pandemic's going on, and the family's at home, and they're watching the George Floyd incident or murder. And it's weird because Randall goes through this metamorphosis, I guess, if you could say it that way, where now all of a sudden this really matters to him. And I feel like Randall and Beth are suffering from the writer's inability or just lack of concern for really focusing on the fact that Randall's a black guy who's had some issues with his identity and how that's translated over the years. Now, we've seen, I don't want to make it sound like the writers have never addressed the fact that Randall's black growing up in a white household. But I feel like there's some issues like this that they've never tackled, and now they're trying to play catch up. And I think the catch up is proving to be a little problematic. Then we saw early on when they were younger and they were at the pool, and Randall was ashy and he had issues with his hair, and how Jack and Rebecca were like, "Oh shoot, we don't know how to do this," and they kind of befriended some black families so they could make sure that they were doing right by their son. I mention that because one of the core aspects of Randall's storyline so far is he has no way to react with his family about what's going on with all these black men and women getting killed by police. And I feel like the writers are trying to overcompensate for not addressing this earlier, but the Pearson family is not the kind that I think is the right example for this. We've seen Kevin drop everything, literally everything. He's got a big role. He's got this big moment, and he's like, "I don't care. I'm going to be right by my brother's side." We've seen Kate drop everything to help her family. Randall needs us. I'm right there with you. And it seems really hard for me to believe that this family, who already suffered this great tragedy, would never think, "Hey, my son, my brother is black. Black people are getting killed. Let's not talk about it." I feel like that conversation he had with Kate, it was powerful, it was strong, but it was perfect if Kate were Randall's coworker and not his sister. And even if they were oblivious and never ever once thought about this impact on Randall, I think seeing this pop up in the news and knowing that they have black nieces and nephews or nieces, and they have a black sister-in-law, that it would make them go, "Wait a second, what's going on here? This is totally wrong. We've got to make sure they're safe." And then you also look at Rebecca, who has looked at Randall as her pride and joy, like son number one. She's never going to be that character or that person who is going to be oblivious to that and just say, "Oh, everything's fine. He's good." Now listen, clearly I'm not adopted by a white family, so I can't vouch for what goes on in that household. But I also feel like we're assuming that they don't care and love Randall, which I think is it's a bigger issue because Randall makes a statement, I'm tired of making y'all comfortable, and it's just, yeah, it's like the writers were like, yeah, look at us, we're finally addressing this thing. But I feel like the better way to address it is to have Randall have black friends, and like we have a potential friend for him in Malik's dad. And I think it's kind of goofy and silly that Randall doesn't have any black friends. It's a problem I had with The Flash early on. I guess still consistently. When Iris got married and she had her bridal party and she had her bachelorette party and no one. She had no friends. Like literally no friends. It was Cecile. It was Felicity. They dragged over from Arrow and Frost. So it's just weird because it's like, yo, she should have a life. She should have friends who look like her or friends in general. And that's the same thing with Randall. It's like Randall grew up. He was like, yo, I want to go to Howard. Howard looks great. It's amazing. It is. And I want to do this thing. And he didn't. And I feel like we've never seen Randall interact with adults, like as a friend. And he's the one that's away from his other siblings. Jack and Kevin and Kate make more sense because they can just hang out with each other. Kate has Madison, and Kevin's all around with all of his actor friends, so that kind of makes sense. But Randall, it's just like, I know he's got Beth, but who's he talk to when he and Beth are having issues? And I guess some of that is why, hey, the changing therapist scene makes sense, but it's also, I think, long term they'd be better suited giving Randall some black friends so he could talk to you about this stuff. Long term, not just a reactionary thing of, hey, here's what's going on, and I'm mad at you guys for never asking me how I felt while black men were getting killed in the streets. And that was a lot for Randall, right? That was, woo, okay, cool. Now he's lashing out kind of at the family, who, like I said, I don't think would have reacted that way. But then we've also got a major twist, because in the first or the second half of the season premiere, we learned that his mom actually did not die. She miraculously recovered. William was totally oblivious, and the paramedics were able to revive her. And she never knew her son. And we see an elderly guy with his granddaughter cooking, and the granddaughter mentions, hey, is this the lady in the picture? And I assume that's her granddaughter as well. And we don't know what's going on until, of course, we see a picture, and it's the guy as a younger guy. And he is with Randall's mother. Now, I immediately was like, this is so soap opera. This is like Roman still being alive, and now his face is changed, and wait, Roman is actually back, and this guy is Jack. It was so soap opera. My grandmother would be proud of this storyline if she were watching it. But yeah, it was really kind of out there, and I was like, oh, there's no possible way that they can connect Randall with this guy who dated and loved his mother. And I have to give him credit, because the whole viral incident with Randall getting undressed, that was funny. And it also provided a really sensible avenue for this connection. I like that because it made sense. And it seems like his mom may still not be around, so he still may not know his parents, but he may have some other siblings out there, and who knows? Maybe it's his campaign aide. Haha, wouldn't that be a twist, right? But anyway, so I thought that was kind of soap opera-y. We'll see where that goes. I am way more intrigued with it than I was with the reveal that, hey, Randall's mother didn't die after she gave birth, like William and Randall thought. And it's so interesting that she never knew anything. She never looked William back up, because I feel like William was not necessarily a hard guy to find if she wanted to find him. Um, Maybe there was some anger that he took her baby. I don't know. Lots of breakdown with that, but I don't know if I care just because I feel like that's something they threw in now. Like, hey, bet y'all didn't see that coming, and it's like, yeah, I definitely did not see that coming because that's a soap opera move. All right, now we're gonna wrap it up here with my last guy, the one who I think has had the most consistently strong storylines through season 5 so far. This is us. And that's Kevin. Kevin is still feeling a little. He is still in his feelings with that fight he had with Randall, and vice versa. And there's a definite distance between the two brothers. He and Kate are tight. That's no change, no difference. He is adjusting to the fact that he is going to be a father of twins with Madison. And of all the various relationships that Kevin has been in, I really like this Madison one. I don't know why. I like the dynamic between those two. And Madison has always been a fun supporting character. She's been there for Kate for since forever. And I don't know, she's just quirky enough to work with him. And she's got her own issues with her eating disorder, so she'll fit right in with the Pearson family, right? They had some great moments. She fell, they went to the doctor, and everything was fine. He proposed to her. She said yeah. And I don't know. There's something about these two that I really like. I want to see that come forward. Um, Kevin is continuing to deal with his feelings of, hey, am I good enough? He's got this new acting gig, and he's really excited. He works with this director who is a absolute jerk. Doesn't offer him any kind of feedback. He's just like really on him hard. And it bookends with a flashback where we see the football coach giving him a hard time for not having a playbook down, and he wants to quit. He wants to give up. He's tired of being harassed. He's been getting up late at night to work out, and Jack doesn't know that. And he's eating so he can get the body type down, like the coach said. And he's like, I've been putting in the work. I'm frustrated because you're not seeing what I'm doing. And I feel like we can all relate to that on some level, right? They don't see what I'm really doing to do this stuff. And Kevin's mad, and he's just like, whatever, I'm done with this, and I'm over it. And Jack goes, nope, I'm not letting him quit. You're making him soft, Rebecca. He's going to have to work at this. And we see a really nice scene with Kevin and Randall working together as they're becoming teenagers. We're seeing a bit more tension or just more bickering and fights between the two of them. And it was really nice actually seeing them work together, him giving him the system to work. And it was really great to see that Kevin still adapts that strategy, the color coded breakdown of studying to get something down. It's really interesting to see where this goes. Like Kevin's dream now is he wants to win an Oscar while Rebecca's still alive and can still remember it. That's awesome. I hope that actually does happen because, yeah, I like Kevin's such a reclamation project, and I think he's that bad boy that all the girls in high school would be attracted to because he's like, oh, I can fix him and make him better. But I think in Kevin's case, he is a good character who's not just a constant screw up. Like he tries to get better. So, and I feel like the show's kind of shifted from Randall being the best, well written character to Kevin, basically from that time where he started relapsing. I think that was like the transition point from, hey, Randall's no longer the best character all by himself now. Now he's got some competition, and they're kind of vying back and forth for best storylines. So Kevin he's got a lot of stuff going on. He's trying to be better, and I don't know. He's fascinating to me as a character. The dynamic with Randall, and I thought he said something that was kind of interesting because he was talking to Kate, and Kate was like, "I'm so." We never asked Randall how he was doing. And he's like, yeah. But he kind of defended his parents, which I thought was interesting and what we didn't see or hear from any other character. Because it's like they did the best they can or could. And I feel like the writers try to make it like Jack and Rebecca were negligent somehow for not having real issues, real conversations about being black with Randall. Also, I forgot to mention this when I was discussing the Randall thing about how the writers are being more reactive. We have a Latinx character, Miguel. We've had zero, no mention whatsoever about immigration or anything that would be concerning to Miguel. He has family, he has grandchildren. We're not mentioning that kind of stuff, even if it doesn't directly affect him. It's affecting his people. He's seeing this in the politics and everything. This whole let's build a wall, let's get him out of here. We're not addressing that. And granted, Miguel is not a main character. He's a side character married to a supporting character, basically. Because older Rebecca is basically a supporting character. But I feel like Miguel has been a long time person in the Pearson's life. And these are issues that are affecting him. And maybe when something big happens, we'll start to realize that in season 7, we'll start focusing on what matters to Miguel. But heads up, writers, that's something you could talk about and discuss a little earlier instead of waiting until somebody in the writer room is like, hey, we should talk about Latinos or Latinx. So hopefully that's sooner rather than later. Because, yeah, I mean, you've got a character here. Let's talk about it. So, 4 episodes in, not really feeling where they're going with Kate. I feel like they're always trying to make her sad, and her life is just always miserable. Jack, Rebecca, marriage life seems awesome. But clearly, if you're into any storyline this season, it's going to be Randall or Kevin, because they're the ones who have the most interesting storylines. What's going to happen with this guy now that he knows who Williams Hill's son is? How is Randall going to react? What is Kevin going to do to become an Oscar-winning actor? How's he going to react to being a father? What's going to happen with him and Madison? Are they going to stay together? And what else is going to go down to surprise and completely unravel and upend the Pearson family as season 5 returns? But that's my immediate take right now. As far as how this rates with other seasons, I think playing catch up to social issues is not a strength of the writers in the writing room. I think they could approach this a little bit better. I really hate that Randall is confiding all of his deep thoughts in terms of being a black man to Malik. I think Malik is a character that he should have a mentor relationship with, which is cool. That's great. I love that he's working with him as an intern. But I don't like the fact that this is the character that Randall is unpacking all these issues, all these thoughts to. Because it's like, you really should talk to an adult. And hopefully, I mean, the therapist is great, but he needs more people to talk to. Rebecca's also awesome, but he needs another guy. And it shouldn't be that he's telling how all his great thoughts to a therapist and his daughter's boyfriend. Let's work on that, writers. All right. That's it for me on this episode. Winding down, sort of long, but I had a lot of thoughts about This Is Us. Love the show. I'm kind of curious to see where this is going to go. Right now, I am hoping this storyline's tighten up a bit, and that this Kate drama doesn't last too long, and we just focus on her and Toby, because I think those two are a happy couple, and let's just have a little happiness in this show, because everything else is going crazy. Alright, y'all. Thanks for listening. As always, I'll have the normal episode with the fellas up in a day or so stay tuned. And I've also got a new giveaway for Nicolas Cage's new movie, Jiu-Jitsu. More information on that soon. So over now, thanks for rolling as always, and I will talk to you all later. This episode of Lyle's Movie Files has been filed.